So not long ago, I did a video on how to do a paper crumple transition. Since then, I've had people ask me if I could share more of that tutorial. Show my whole process, not just a quicker edited down version, where you're just gonna kind of be looking over my shoulder as I show you how I crumple and manipulate paper with stop motion animation. So come on y'all, let's get into my tutorial. And as I always say, let's keep it crumpling. So to start off, I'm going to be shooting over a green poster board background. And that way afterwards, I can key out the green background and use it as a transition. This is my setup. There are much easier ways you can accomplish the same thing once I set up a couple coffee cans and just used a piece of glass on top of it with poster board underneath. So one of the transitions that I use the most is the paper crumple. That's what we're about to do. I'm going to show you my process in Dragon Frame. So I'm starting out with some kind of harder stock paper. Got it from a local craft store. It's kind of thick. And the good thing about that, when we're folding and crumpling paper, is there's more malleability with the thick stuff. I'm not going to register it, because I'm going to do this at 12 frames per second. You could do it at a higher frame rate. The lower the frame rate you animate at, stop motion wise, I feel like it's easier to visualize, time-wise, how long things need to last. So, let's start with this first frame. I'm going to use my remote trigger right here. For the second frame, I don't think I need to do anything also. So we go on straight into another. Now for this next one, I want to barely do anything. I'm just going to have unsteady hands, so if I just barely tap this thing, it should do the job. Because if you've studied animation, you know the animations that are most pleasing to the eye are those kind of with an S-curve that start out very slowly. They get real dramatic and ease back into it. Real slow, easing. So for the next one, I want to start seeing some crumple shadows. So I'm just going to take this, and I'm not even trying to really crumple it. You saw, I just want to start to make the shapes and shadows of a bend. The only thing I'm really trying to do is make sure the edges of my paper are not moving around too much. But other than that, lining it up wise, it's not going to be a worry. Okay, let's get a little bit more dramatic. I want to work with that same wrinkle that I started before because we want to accentuate that further. And I'm going to see if I can get some other action going on here too. Okay, that's looking pretty good. All I'm looking at is the edges of the paper, where that's lining up, and I'm also taking into account where that wrinkle started before, and that those wrinkles are, generally speaking, in the same sort of place. Doesn't have to be exact, because we're going 12 frames a second. That's going to give us a lot of leeway. All right. Now let's really dive into it. I'm going to use two hands. Just feel these wrinkles. Just start crinkling them up right there like that. I'm not going to go as deep as I just did. Move it back a little bit more. So really what we're just seeing is a Wrinkletown massacre in the middle right there. Now our next frame, I'd say we need to really start compacting this thing now. Now we're going to let it bunch up. And as you see, your paper is going to start moving in between takes. I'm going to go ahead and hit it like that. Next, I'm following, see, each time I'm trying to follow the same wrinkle crinkle patterns. So that way, it will appear as a somewhat fluid animated motion. Now this is so dramatic. Look at that. But we're going to go with it. I think it needs to start balling up. So we're gonna go a bit beyond the wrinkle that we did and start balling this baby a little bit. Balling. Here we go. Now I gotta make it to where it's going to sit, hopefully. And here our motion's so intense we don't have to worry about lining anything up. I could think about that shadow down there and kind of turn it accordingly. See if that looks better, but we're balling so much, man, I don't think it's really gonna matter at this point. I think the only thing to keep into account is which direction is it crinkling and making sure our ball is landing in that right direction. Now, if we wanted this ball to just disappear, what we could start doing is tearing off pieces of this paper ball. Or the other option would be to maybe make the ball roll down. I like the idea of making it disappear, so let's do that. So I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna tear this sheet of paper in half. You know I love to tear some stuff, baby. I love to be tearing. So now I'm just gonna compact it. And just make sure it is somewhat in the same spot it was before. Yeah. And we want this thing to just disappear out of existence. So I'm going to keep that process up. Tearing this up, making it smaller and smaller. Make that ball get small. And you might need to use a little rag. Clean up some of these paper dust crumply shreddies. There we go, we gotta line that up. And you notice I'm not using onion skins. I hardly ever use onion skins. I think I've said this before. I prefer to just look at the previous frame and look at this frame. Because sometimes I get too distracted. Once again, tear and ball. We're going to tear and ball. All right. Tinier and tinier. There we go. And we're eventually going to just get to the point where we tear this thing out of existence. Right now it's a little spitball. Look at that little spitball. I think by the next one, we're gonna basically just have a tiny little paper dot. And we can probably get away with not even having anything. But just in case, I'm going to do one last little itty bitty tear. Little itty bitty. And we are done. Let's play that back and see how that looks. I like the way that looks. Now, let's go and key out the green screen. So we have an alpha channel there. And that way, we can place this as a transition between two parts of video or animation or whatever we want to use it for. Let's go create a new Adobe After Effects project file. You don't have to do this in After Effects. There are lots of other great programs that you could do the same thing in. I am most familiar with After Effects, so to be most effective and efficient in this tutorial, that's what I'm going to show y'all how to do it in. I tried messing around with Calvary. I liked what I saw, but there's going to be a learning curve for sure. Okay, new project file. Go ahead and save it as, we're going to call this paper crumple. So I'm going to import what I just photographed in DragonFrame. So I go into whatever take it was that I just did that on, which is trash take 4. And you have the option of either importing a JPEG sequence or a RAW file sequence. For me, it's an ARW. I'm going to do the RAW file sequence, and you got to make sure this box is checked off right here. If you need to adjust it any, you can do that with these controls right here when you're importing a RAW image sequence. But I like the way I photographed mine, so I'm just going to click OK. You notice up here it's going to tell you the frame rate it was imported at. Now, in your settings, you can designate what frame rate you import things at. Yeah, sequence footage. I have it set to 12 frames per second because that's what I've been working with a lot lately. You can change it to whatever you want to there. If you've already imported it and you don't like the frame rate you've imported it at, you can right click on it and go to Interpret Footage, Main, and in this box right here, it says Assume Frame Rate. And then that's when you tell it what you want it to be. Okay, I'm just going to straight up make a sequence from this image sequence. Or not a sequence, in After Effects it's called a composition. So what we're going to do now is use key light to key out the green parts. Oh, and I'm going to flip mine 180 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to go to a part of this image sequence where I can see a good deal of green. And I'm going to look for the lightest color green because that's what we're going to base our key on. So I go into Effects, Keying, Key Light. And we want to go to the screen color. And this is where we're going to pick, in my experience, the lightest color green we see. Alrighty, that's looking pretty good. What we want to do is in our view, right now it's showing us the key, the final results. We want to go to Screen Matte. This is going to give us a better picture of what we're actually keying out. And what we're keying shows up as the black. And what isn't being keyed shows up as the white. So our goal is to keep this as white as possible while getting rid of as much of this as possible. So I'm going to start by going to the screen gain and cranking that up a bit. And just by cranking that a little bit, you can see we've gotten rid of a lot of these nasties. Now, if you crank up your screen gain and you notice your paper is starting to become less white, you're pulling from that. One option you have is to go into this screen matte and adjust the clip white. And the more you bring that value down, the more it's going to preserve your white areas, but it's also going to bring out the whites here a little bit more. So it's just kind of a balancing act back and forth between those two. I'm going to do a general scroll over, and we notice that near the beginning, when more of that green was in the shadows, we're not pulling up a lot of that. So let's go to this zone right here and see if we can crank this some more and get rid of some of that white. Wow, this is really high. Now, the reason this is not pulling from my paper, I didn't just use white paper. I used kind of a brownish color, and that's getting close to being opposites on the color wheel from green, because brown has a lot more warmth in it than it does the green's cools. And another thing you can do, you can keyframe these values. So if you want your screen matte to be less in this zone right here, you can place a keyframe there. More here, we'll place a keyframe here. Actually, you know what, I'm going to hit U so I can see keyframes I've already made. Yeah, and I'm going to place another keyframe here. So we'll stay this value here, then we'll jump to this other one. We're going to bring it down some, just so we're not pulling from our paper ball too much. And the last, well, one of the last steps I'm going to do is I'm going to create a garbage matte. So we're going to start over here And I'm going to go to the pen tool up here. And with the pen tool, I'm going to do kind of a rough, loose outline around the edges of this paper. I'm not getting too close to the edges, just close enough. Okay, looking pretty good. So now I want to make a mask keyframe. So you can hit the M button to do that. I click this little stopwatch to make the keyframe there. And then now we're going to kind of roto as we go along. Pull it in a little bit closer. And I just double clicked on the mask to manipulate it. We'll go a little bit closer. And see, once you've made a keyframe, if you're moving forward within your timeline, you don't need to make another one. It'll automatically make it when you adjust. And we could be more precise with our garbage mat if we wanted to. I held down the Option and Command key on my Mac to make these extra additional points, but you can go back up into your pen tool and do the same thing. Get closer around the edges. Now we're going to tighten up a lot. Let's get tighter. And after we've done what we need to do on our garbage mat, I think we're probably getting pretty close here. There we go. And then for our last frame, I'm just going to pull it back and get rid of it because that was our blank frame. Okay. Now I'm going to go over to my view and go back to final results. And this is all looking pretty yippee skippy if you ask me. But we need to test this out and see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a solid. And on the Mac, that is Command Y. Something very bright that we can definitely see. Yeah, this blue looks good. I'll pull the solid underneath it because we want to go look at the edge of our paper. That's going to tell us really how clean things are looking. And you see there's a little dark outline. Don't love that, huh? So what's something we can do about that? One of the things we can do, we can go back into key light. We have this replace method right here. Right now it's set to, by default, it goes soft color. Let's see if changing it to source does anything. No, looks the same. So the next thing we'll try is to throw, I'm going into the effects, matte. I'm going to throw a matte choker on this thing. And this is a very effective tool for edges. And also just for clearing up any little dots or specks that might have been left behind for the key. The only thing I don't like about this matte choker is sometimes if you have like a nice real paper edge, sometimes it messes with the integrity of that. But I think we're looking pretty good here. We'll do a quick preview. Get in all close to see. And when I said it messes with the integrity of the edges, you can see that right here, right? And you can especially see it here. So let's see what happens if I take off the matte choker here. That looks much better. And so much so that personally, I'm thinking about doing away with this matte choker once we start really crumpling up. I really think we just need the matte choker for these wider shots where we have these clean, crisp edges. So I'm going to turn it back on here. But then here, where we start to get some of these nice real paper texture edges, I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. And I'm going to do that by splitting my layer. I'm going to do Shift Command D. You see that splits this layer in half. And so On this layer moving forward, I'm going to turn the matte choker off. No matte choker. And now, ooh, look how much nicer that looks. That looks real, baby. Okay. I'm just going to keep it off for the remainder of the animation. I think we're ready to export, y'all. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. So we're going to get rid of this blue solid. Let's export this thing. I'm going to do Command Control M to send this composition to the render queue. And what I want to, it's got best settings there. That's good. What I want to change is the output module, what we're going to be exporting this as. This is important. Export it as either a lossless file with alpha or a high quality with alpha. I'm going to go for lossless because that's even better quality. And now we're going to change the name of this. So let's see. I'm going to make a folder. MOB, and I'm going to call this Paper Crumple FX. And I'm going to say it's got an alpha just so I remember that later. I can use it that way. Okay, let's hit render. Done! And I hope y'all found this helpful. If you like longer format tutorials like this where you basically just watch me work, less edited versions, let me know. Otherwise, you know, I do have the shorter ones too, like this video here or this video here. And if that's what you want to see, if you want me to keep things concise, let me know, and I'll make sure to do it that way. What's important is that you all are learning in the most effective way, and for me to know that, I need your feedback. So, thanks for watching, and keep it crumpling.